Can a guy that buys 100 houses a year wholesale learn how to do creative financing in one of the hottest markets in America? Stay tuned. Well, hey guys, welcome to this week's edition of NoteSchool TV, where every week we bring you amazing content. And yes, today's guest is no different. And this gentleman is from Phoenix, Arizona. And Eddie will bring him on in just a minute. Before we do, a couple things I'd like for you to do for us. Number one, if you will just hit that like button, that you like what you see here on NoteSchool TV. Also, subscribe to the NoteSchool channel if you have not already done so. And then number three, hit that bell notification so that you will know when we're getting ready to go live. When? Every Wednesday at 11:05 Central Time. And also, guys, a couple of other things. Number one, if you want to know more information or have more information about what we do at NoteSchool, just simply go to noteschool.com, noteschool.com/TV, and we would be happy to call you, email you, whatever you choose. And also, folks, please, please, please keep those questions and those comments coming so that we will know that you are engaging and you are getting what we're bringing to you every week. When? At 11:05 Central on NoteSchool TV. So let's do what we normally do this time every week, and that is, well, here's the news. So guys, today in the news, well, it's more about prices, right? There is, wow, this real estate market, it's just amazing, isn't it? That's all we can call it, right? So real house prices increased nearly 33% year over year. So from April to, and this, of course, we get the latest information that's available. So from April of 2021 to April of 2022, overall, 33% year over year. And I pulled up the top 5 markets as far as appreciation. And look, there's Raleigh, North Carolina at 46.6. Charlotte at 46.6. Raleigh, Durham, Cary at 43.5. Tampa, right up the road from me, at 43.3. Phoenix, our guest today's hometown, at 42%. And Jacksonville, Florida, at 41.2%. So guys, yep, it's still amazing out there. But here's the other side of that, well, we talk about how great things are, but then, well, we look at this. Q2 zombie properties on the rise. You like that graphic I have on there? Well, Adam, which is Adam Data Solutions, their latest vacant zombie foreclosure report for Q2 is that there are 1.3 million plus residential properties in the nation currently sitting vacant, representing, well, 1.3% of all homes in the U.S., or 1 in 76 homes. So guys, what does this mean? Well, some of these have been sitting vacant for quite a while. Most of them have been sitting vacant for over 20 months. And people just, they couldn't pay. They packed up and moved out and left the property vacant. And because of the foreclosure moratoriums and all of the backup with all of that, the bank just never has gotten around to foreclosing on those. So these are properties that will be in that NPL, that non-performing note pipeline that we talk about. And so that is it for the news today, folks. And now I want to introduce, well, my friend, Chief Visionary Officer, founder of NoteSchool, and all-around great guy, Mr. Eddie Speed.
Well, thank you, Joe Varnadore. It is so good to be with you guys today. We have a great guest and with a great story. Real estate investor out of the Phoenix area. And he is definitely one of these guys that has been high volume, but he has a perspective of where the market is going. And I think you're going to want to hear it relative to creative financing and how that might work. So really, with no further ado, I want to introduce my friend Scott Bowers. How are you?
I'm doing really well. How you doing? Good morning.
Good. Hot out there in Phoenix, huh?
It is hot. That's true. Thankfully, I'm inside.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. Well, I get that. You know, in Texas in the summer it gets a little hot, but in Phoenix it really gets hot, right?
Yep, we turn it up. That's for sure.
Scott and I became friends. Scott is a student and a NoteSchool member. Scott and I became friends a few years ago. He's got some killer great case studies. If you ever come to a NoteSchool training, you will probably get to see a Scott Bauer case study because he's got some really good ones. And Scott, you have been in one of the hottest real estate markets in the country, right?
Absolutely. I would say the hottest by far, not only in reality outside, but also in the real estate market. This place is crawling with competition all over the place.
It is. And you implemented a strategy that I guess most of your competitors said couldn't be done, which is you were very successful in getting people to carry the terms for you, carry financing for you. And so you didn't have to go to the bank. Let's talk about that. How did you transition your wholesaling business to that?
So I think that it comes on a couple different ways. Number one, for a seller, this is a really good tax way for them to avoid paying a large tax bill when they sell their property. Number two, it benefits the seller in a lot of different ways. If they're willing to take payments over time and take payments for the property, whether you have a decent sized down payment or not, they're really protected because the entire time that I, as the buyer, buying from them, make payments to them, they're generating revenue. And if I were to default, they get to not only keep whatever down payment I gave them, but also the amount of payments that I paid them. Plus, they get the property back and they could turn around and resell it again. I mean, there's no real way for them to lose in this scenario.
And the thing about it, Scott, is, we you and I've talked about this, right? I mean, like the hobbyist landlord, the small time landlord, amongst you or anybody that I call high volume, the ninja house buyers, right? Everybody, this is the most solicited customer out there, right?
For sure.
Yet most of these landlords don't sell. Why?
So, I think a lot of times if people are going to them, well, there's a couple different reasons why. If a seller is being solicited and they're being solicited by a wholesaler is going to give them a low offer, or even a fix and flip guy, a low offer. And of course that seller is not going to want that. The other reason is because of taxes. They don't want to pay a big tax bill. Maybe they're a small mom and pop landlord. They've owned this property for 25, 30 years. They know that if they sell it, they're going to get hit with a big tax bill. And maybe that's not money that they have the ability to pay.
Well, I mean, they have a lot of equity. But along with that equity, it's taxable, right? And we really, talking to other high volume guys in the business, talking to people that train a lot of the biggest high volume guys in the business, the negotiation strategist, right? Two guys that you know well and respect. One is your neighbor, Steve Trang, there in Phoenix.
Yep.
Another one's Jerry Green, both of which are very effective at training people and how to buy houses and how to get at the kitchen table. And they're talking to me and they're like, Eddie, your strategy is an angle that our people should use a lot better. And I know that if you're listening to this show today, you're listening to it and going, well, Scott buys 100 houses a year. I'm not that guy. And I think it's even more important if you're not a high volume guy, Scott. What if somebody's doing 5 to 20 deals a year? What's that mean?
Well, I think that this strategy, this is not just about high volume. This strategy works to build wealth for yourself, to build wealth for your family, to allow you to buy properties without using the bank. That's another big piece that people forget to talk about, is that if you're buying a property and a seller is willing to carry the note or carry the paper on it, you're not having to go to a bank that's going to use your credit score or your other liabilities you have in order to underwrite you. This is a deal where you're able to buy a property where the lender is the seller. And, you could make great cash flow. You could build great equity out of these properties for you and your family. And so, if you're still a low volume person, if you're doing 20 deals a year and you could pull 2 extra deals using creative financing, that could drastically increase your net worth over time. And it just adds another tool to your tool belt for sure.
One of the things that, Scott, we at NoteSchool, we shifted to and kind of directing people like you was we started leading with the tax loophole strategy. That became the lead, because most every high volume real estate investor in your market, right?
Yep.
That any of them have other than somebody like you that understands creative financing, does anybody have a lead that's anything other than I'll buy your house and pay cash?
I mean, not really. It definitely separates myself and others that have been part of your program, actually, from a lot of the people out there. Especially, Phoenix is such a there's so many people that are in Phoenix that are in the real estate investment space that this is kind of a leg up. This is another approach that you can give to a seller that puts you ahead of the competition, even if you're just talking about it.
Yeah.
One of the things that happens on this creative, when you're going at it from a creative finance approach, is it normally doesn't happen on the first go round. Right. You mention it. Seller's expecting, a lowball cash offer, and maybe you give them that lowball cash offer, but when they say no, you say, listen, I have another approach that might actually benefit you more, and you kind of put the bug in their ear at that time. Then it's a bit of a follow-up game. A couple of deals I've done this year have been follow-up games. They realize that everybody that they're talking to is making a lowball cash offer. And now after a week or 2 weeks or several others giving these lowball offers, now all of a sudden my creative finance full price offer is a lot more attractive to them. And that's just as long as they're comfortable carrying the paper, which they should be. Once again, it's an education thing. You got to educate them on why it's good for them to carry the paper. But it just takes a few times to follow up before you actually get them understanding that this is a good approach for them.
One thing that I want to point out to the audience, this is so instinctively, Scott, so well that you probably don't even think about it. But you have a consumer that needs to sell for money reasons, right? Divorce, health, job, whatever, bad choices, all the above, right?
Yep.
But this landlord is not broke, right? This landlord the reason they want to sell is because they made an investment that turned into a lot more of a job than they were hoping for, right? That's usually a slower converting customer, right?
Yep, absolutely. Not only that, but they also seem to think about things a little bit more. They're not so on the cusp to make decisions. Once you get out what a finance options like them, and you let them simmer on it for a little bit, they get some other offers from some other people. And not only that, but they're used to making some cash flow typically. They're used to making some cash flow. So if you can show them that, hey, listen, look, on this creative finance opportunity I'm presenting in front of you, you can make the same or more cash flow every month, but you don't have any risk. You don't have any crap to deal with. You don't have to deal with the tenant. You don't have to pay taxes, insurance. You don't have to worry about repairs or vacancy or anything like that, because now all of a sudden you're becoming the bank and you're getting paid every month. Sometimes it could be making more cash flow doing it this strategy than you were when you were renting it to a tenant. So it's really a good.
I've seen you structure a deal. I helped you structure a deal, more than one, that them carrying term gave them more net income than they were netting renting. And they didn't have to manage it. So they're not losing money. It's just a different way of them getting their money. And then obviously the tax deferment is everything.
That's icing on the cake here too. I mean, it really is. So one thing that I've run into as well is where the sellers can't believe that this makes sense. There's like, wait a minute. So you're telling me that I'm going to make more money every month, more cash flow. I don't have any of the headache to deal with. And I'm going to get a tax incentive? No way. And this is where, they some of them will reach out to their CPA, and bring my offer, the creative finance offer, to their tax person, CPA, or whoever, before they'll come back and say, actually, yeah, you were right. This actually makes sense. And it's kind of a cool feeling to be able to do that too. It really is.
Well, the thing is, I think about the advantage that somebody has in making an offer and leading with the tax strategy, right? As the conversation, an icebreaker to the conversation, and what an inordinate advantage it gives you over everybody else in that's competing that honestly just kind of has the same pitch. Some of them are better than others, but they're all pitching the same thing.
And we might lead with that initial pitch. This is what separates a seasoned investor maybe with a newbie investor, where you might lead with the quick dollar. You might lead with this low ball cash offer. And as soon as they say no, then you bring them back and say, okay, I understand. If I was in your spot, I wouldn't take this either. Let me show you this other approach where we're actually going to give you more money. You're going to make more money. You're going to have less risk. You have a tax incentive, etc. And they are happy to hear about it.
When you tell somebody they can defer taxes and possibly even eliminate some taxes, and if you get their payment, their capital gains payment in the future low enough, because there's limits, you have to get to a certain amount before you pay taxes every year. In some cases, right? And we're not giving tax advice, but people don't realize this. But there's people in a lot of tax brackets that below $40,000 a year, they don't have to pay capital gains tax. Well, maybe you can't do that in a lump sum, but you can do it over time, and that's pretty crazy. So people don't really even realize that could be done, as you said. And I think a lot of times, Scott, I realize that your acquisition teams, you guys are so good at this. But I tell even seasoned guys, do some marketing, and particularly the guys that aren't as seasoned, that don't buy 100 houses a year, do marketing and lead with a tax strategy, because who wouldn't call you to talk about that? Because they hadn't heard anybody say that. You thinking, well, their accountant knew that. Somewhere in the accountant's head, he knows that's true, but it's certainly not in front of his brain. It's just they don't deal with a specialized accountant like you would that would have that strategy conversation. It's just not something that would come up.
What I've just really found to be the most effective approach is just when you make the creative finance offer, it's the follow-up that makes the difference. It's really the follow-up, and so like we have it piggyback off of our, wholesale and fix and flip marketing. So those same people that are getting that marketing piece that's saying, we'll make you a cash offer, close quick, et cetera, like everybody else, we lead with that. But then we can pivot during the appointment, pivot during the conversation, before the appointment, whatever it might be, to show them that there are other ways that we can provide a solution for them. At the end of the day, we're trying to find a solution. So first figuring out what their pain point is. And in this example that we were talking about earlier with the small mom and pop landlord, the pain point might be that they're just tired. Maybe they're done being a landlord. They've been a landlord for 25 years semi-successfully, and they're done. But they don't want to have this huge tax bill. And so when we can present it and deliver it with a way where they're able to continue to reap all the benefits they've been reaping being a landlord, yet take all the risk and headache away, plus get a tax incentive. I mean, it's you're winning in all levels. and you become the star in their eyes because you're presenting this and educating them about it.
Scott, I want to ask you this question because we have an advantage in having you here today, and that is that you are a high volume real estate investor. You guys have sat in more kitchen tables in volume than a lot of the small guys have ever done in their whole career, right? So I want to ask you this, like, of the small time landlords, what percentage of them, small time landlords, is defined by 5 houses or less, right? They love HGTV. They fell in love with the idea. And then what percentage of them are really good at landlording?
Well, I mean, some of them have just got decent. So maybe 20% of them are really good at it. They have holes in their system. So they have holes in how they're acquiring their tenant and how they're underwriting their tenant, and how, some of them have their tenants, they keep their tenants for so long because their rent is so low, because they've owned these properties for so long. But overall, for the most part, that's not their primary business. If you own less than 5 houses, this is a hobby that you have. This isn't your professional career. And so they're not perfect. That's for sure.
So I'm going to ask you a number, and don't let me pick a number. You correct me if you don't agree. Okay.
Okay.
60% are really not doing well at managing their rentals.
I would almost, yeah. I mean, so of the, it depends. And this is what it depends on. If they have a management company that's managing it for them, different story.
But 3/4 of them self-manage.
Correct. So of the people, I would say that the number would be higher than 60% that aren't managing them well.
75.
Yeah, 70. Yeah, that's where my mind went instantly, because they're, like I said, there's just holes in their system. There's holes in their process.
So, guys, I want you to understand something. He did not know I was going to ask him that question. This isn't a skit, right? I wanted to get his answer. I didn't want to put an answer in his head, and I didn't want to coach him. I just wanted to say instinctively, from a heck of a lot of experience, how often is it you find a frustrated small-time landlord? And you say 75% of the time. That's pretty high number. By the way, do you know how many houses they own? Self-managed, small-time landlords. You know how many houses they own? Just under 12 million. That statistic that you just described, 75% of 12 million houses, is a lot of houses you could take a swing at trying this strategy.
For all of you out there, that's 8 million.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Scott, we're going to have a word from our sponsor. We're going to talk about how you got started with NoteSchool, which was basically to come hang out with us at a one-day class and kind of just learn what this means. And then obviously you progress. We'll see you in a minute. Word from our sponsor.
Well, hello, everyone. It is Brian with the teaching team here at NoteSchool, and I'm excited that I get to be the one to invite you to the upcoming Gold in Notes class. That's right. It is a one-day deeper dive class that we call Gold in Notes because of how valuable this time spent is. This is a full day that we really get to dig into the nitty-gritty, the whole world of creative financing, not just how to acquire more deals, how to get access to more capital, how to defer a lot of the taxes for us as well as for the sellers that we're talking to, and really learn how to create your own notes. And really, once you learn how to create your own notes, this is really where we spend an entire afternoon really pulling back the curtain on what the note business is, from wholesaling notes, buying and holding performing notes to really build your wealth. I'll even show you a strategy called partials, which is by far the best wealth building tool I've ever seen in the real estate space. And we're definitely going to spend some time talking about non-performing notes, which is by far the biggest opportunity in today's marketplace solely because of the events that have happened over the past couple of years. This is when people are not paying their mortgages, and we're going to make a lot of big money from these bad debts, and we're going to help a lot of people get a second chance. It's an absolutely fantastic day. Come spend a day really digging and discover a lot of this stuff so that you too can start building your wealth. It's a day meant to really be engaging. Bring your questions, bring your comments, bring your business problems, and we will see you there.
We are back. You remember those days, Scott?
I do. I need to come back, man. It's been a little while. It's been.
We're back with our guest today, Scott Bowers. He is a NoteSchool guy, and we've had a lot of fun together. We spent guys that coach with us. We call them deal labs, and they come to those deal labs with us all the time. So Scott would bring us deals, and we have a funny little segment that we do at a class sometimes, Scott, and we play a video of you saying, "Don't mess with my deal, Eddie. I'm good enough." You remember that?
I do.
I did mess with it, and we made it a lot better, didn't we? And the guy still went for it.
Absolutely.
Scott, I want to talk about the logic behind this, and that is, why add terms? Why add, the wealth piece to your business? You're a 1 in 10,000, Scott. You do enough deals that you're probably 1 in every 10 or 20,000 real estate investors that would like to be you. Why would somebody that does high volume that you do, why does this wealth strategy make a difference?
I mean, kind of like what we talked about earlier on this call here today. This gives you another strategy, another tool in your tool belt to be able to do more deals and ultimately to be able to build wealth for yourself and for your family. At the same time, helping somebody understand there's still ways for them to make money even after they're done with their career, right? This, as a professional investor, I'm always sharpening my skills, and I'm always trying to figure out what gives me the edge and the advantage over the competition out there today. And this, not only that, but how can I learn how to create more deals so I can structure things differently so that I'm a more well-rounded professional when it comes to sitting in front of a seller at the kitchen table. I mean, this is what will separate me from everybody else. That's essentially pitching the same thing.
There's no doubt that the tax loophole strategy is showing a seller what's possible. Doing the disclaimer, you're not giving them tax advice, of course. You're going to close more deals because you're going to get deals that the reason they don't want to sell is they don't want to pay taxes. That's the very reason they don't want to sell, right? But more importantly for you, my father-in-law, you've heard these stories. My father-in-law got me started in the business in 1980, a long time ago. And I can remember as a young man, him saying this to me and me flat being able to not wrap my mind around it. But he said, Eddie, when your living is made on January 1st every year for that year, he said, then you can really make a lot of money. And what he was saying is if you own a portfolio, and in your case, these wrap notes, people have carried terms for you, you're carrying terms on a wrap note for somebody else. That's going to be a pretty big deal in the market to come, right? With the mortgage industry not filling the gap because of rates, right? They're only going to be down about 40% in volume this year. Crazy number, huh?
Pretty big number, really.
And so you start realizing that that's your portfolio. That's not a job. That's not something you got to get up and go do. That's mailbox money that you're not having to go work for, and you get paid for a long time in the future.
I will tell you this, and this is also an important part. As being a high volume investor, and I have been for years, one of the things on the transactional side of things is it's very transactional, right? We do a lot of deals, yet when we stop making the effort to put those deals together, the money stops coming in. That's not the case when it comes to the creative finance side. I've got 30 years worth of income coming in that's going to come in no matter what, because I have created these notes that way. And that's a powerful statement. That's a powerful thing to have underneath of you. Even the rentals that I have, just the typical rentals, don't provide the same type of, the note side, the notes that I have created, whether they're wrap notes, whether they're notes that I've been a first deed on, whether they're notes I bought that are all providing cash flow. Like, these things are just, they turn every month. We get a report on the first, and it shows everything that comes in, and there's no maintenance that's taken out of it. There's no vacancy that's taken out of it. There's no, I'm not getting hit with, hey, the light bulb burn out. We need you to, send your guy over there to replace the light. That none of that happens, yet we still get paid, and it's very, very good. It's very cool.
All right, Scott, I want to talk about one more important thing. I love that you are singing Eddie Speed's song, and you know that. But this is why I'm so passionate about real estate investors adding this to their business, is because what you're saying is you get a check every month without a job, and that's wealth, right? Flipping houses is not wealth. I'm not saying it's not a good living, but it's not wealth, right? All right, let's talk about the future. What do you think? You want to do a little forecast?
I'd love to do a forecast.
Tell us what's going to happen.
So specifically here in Phoenix, everybody out there, whether you're brand new or you're seasoned, should understand that real estate is a cyclical business. It goes up, it goes down, it goes up, and it goes down. And we have been going up climbing a big hill for a long time. Now, during that climb, the banks have provided over these last few years interest rates on 30-year loans that are super, super low, 2%, 3% loans. And those are gone now. Now we're seeing 6, 7%, I think, is what they're projecting that we're going to be in very soon. And so what that is going to provide is that there are opportunities for people where you can take over somebody's 2% loan and wrap it at a 7, 8, or 9% and make the difference for the next foreseeable, 30 years or whatever the time length is left on that note. That is just one example of a way that you can capitalize using this creative financing strategy. And it's huge. I mean, it is massive. It's very exciting times are ahead. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think that so I mentioned the mortgage industry, just a stat for the audience. Mortgage industry did about $4.5 trillion in loan volume on residential mortgages last year. $4.5 trillion. Okay, that's this number. This year they're going to do about 2.7. Next year they're projecting about 2 trillion. So if you look at my history since 1980, long time, right? When have I seen seller financing flourish the most? 100% of the time, it has been when the traditional mortgage industry could not solve the industry's problems. And what you said, right now, if you took rates from the 1st of January to today, rates have already doubled this year. If the Fed does what I think everybody believes they've already promised they're going to do, then that's that additional 1 or 2% additional interest on top of it. And in your house price market and many markets in the country, you have just made a deal not affordable.
Yep.
And so instead of getting shut down and we got to find a new card game, the card game is creative financing is going to come raging to the rescue. That's what I believe is going to happen. And you're the one calling the market because you're out there living it every day, right?
Yeah, and the other really big opportunity, I think, creative. So different strategies work in work the best in different segments of the market cycle. For an example, fixing and flipping houses works really, really well when the market is on the come up because you have the ability to buy a house, and whether you're going to make money no matter what because of the market.
Correct.
It works really, really bad when you don't know when the downside is coming, and all of a sudden you might get caught holding the bag on the downside. meaning that you overpaid for a property, projecting that the market was going to bring it up in value, and instead the market did the opposite. Therefore, you get stuck, and that's a bad spot to be in. But creative financing works at all times. There's not one segment that it necessarily works better or worse in. It just depends on what type of creative strategy you're going to use, and it works throughout every cycle and every market type and all times.
And the reason that's true, guys, this is really important, right? He's absolutely right. But the reason that's true is you're dictating the terms. You're not borrowing money from a hard money lender. You're not borrowing money from a bank. You're not borrowing money from your Uncle Joe. You're borrowing money from somebody that lent you the money, and you will 100% dictate the terms under which they lent you the money. And you can write conditions in that loan that a bank or a mortgage company wouldn't agree to. That is what gives you so much power and stroke. Scott, you're awesome.
Thank you, Eddie. Good to be here, man. Hopefully I could add some value for the audience.
I think you've added a lot of value to the audience. Just your wisdom, you're being willing to stop and share your experiences with them a little bit and showing them how you've done it. And you've done it in a pretty impressive market, because I'll guarantee you one thing: you have been in a super competitive market to go play the game.
Absolutely. It's been cool. And like I said, I mean, I'm optimistic of what the future holds in the creative finance space.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be a lot more opportunities to buy deals creatively, more so even than we've seen on the last couple of years.
I don't think there's any doubt, right? That this inflationary market is going to be a different card game than we have been playing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
No doubt.
Absolutely.
Scott, great to see you.
You too, Eddie. Appreciate it, man. We'll talk soon.
Thank you, pal.
So thank you so much for joining us today, guys. We hope you enjoyed our guest today, Mr. Scott Bauer. Scott is a great young man. He's got his business locked in. He's got his head screwed on straight. And, just hope you enjoyed listening to what Scott says about his business operating in a crazy hot market, and why he learned to do creative financing. And why did he learn that? So that he could make money today, cash flow, and money tomorrow. That's the big thing. So thanks for being on NoteSchool and listening to us today, because at NoteSchool, we want to show you how to close more deals. And again, for more information, simply go to noteschool.com/TV, and we will be happy to get back with you. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next week on the other side. Thanks.